Between now and the year 2050, we'll see things that look like science fiction and others we'd rather not see. In any case, this is the map of the future. In 2026, driverless robot taxis will enter Europe for the first time thanks to Uber and Wave in the United Kingdom, marking the start of a new era in urban transport. That same year, the United States, Mexico, and Canada will host the largest World Cup in history, with 48 teams, and it will likely be the last World Cup for the two best soccer players in history. Additionally, SpaceX currently aims to send the first uncrewed spacecraft to Mars in 2026, though the timeline is still uncertain, as they also delayed the first rockets to Mars with astronauts to 2029 or 2031. In 2027, NASA's Artemis 3 mission will finally take 4 astronauts to the moon, more than half a century after the last moon landing. For the first time in history, the crew will include a woman and a person of color, and 2 of them will spend a full week at the lunar South Pole, an unexplored region rich in ice and key to future missions. And on August 2nd, 2027, a total solar eclipse will cross Spain, North Africa, and the Middle East, with a duration of more than 6 minutes of total darkness. We won't see another one this long until the year 2114. In 2028, the Olympic Games will return to Los Angeles for the 3rd time, a record it will share with Paris and London. That same year, Saudi Arabia expects to complete the Jeddah Tower in Jeddah, near Mecca. It'll be the first building in the world to exceed 1 kilometer in height, with 165 floors and 59 elevators, making the 828 meters of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai look small. In 2029, the asteroid Apophis, 450 meters long, will pass just 32,000 kilometers from Earth, closer than many satellites, and will be visible to the naked eye in Africa, Asia, and Europe. That same year, polio is expected to be completely eradicated, a serious disease that now only remains in Afghanistan and Pakistan. It would be the second human disease eradicated with vaccines after smallpox in 1980. Also in 2029, the Extremely Large Telescope in Chile will see its first light. Its primary mirror, 39 meters in diameter, will be the largest ever built, capable of capturing 100 million times more light than the human eye and up to 250 times more than the Hubble. Its most ambitious mission will be to search for Earth-like planets. In 2030, several important international commitments will expire. It'll be the deadline to meet the UN Sustainable Development Goals, an ambitious agenda with social, economic, and environmental targets that, for the most part, are not on track to be achieved. It is also the key day for the Paris Agreement, which requires a global cut in emissions that, at this point, seems increasingly difficult to achieve. And Saudi Vision 2030 aims for Saudi Arabia's non-oil exports to represent 50% of its GDP, a far cry from the current 25%. By this year, we could also see the first error-tolerant quantum computers capable of solving in hours what would take years today, from simulating molecules to designing new batteries. Their impact could extend to sectors as varied as energy, logistics, chemistry, or finance. Likewise, we could see the first regulated xenotransplants, such as pig organs genetically modified to be compatible with humans. In the United States, kidneys are already being tested in patients, and if trials go well, they could start being used in very specific cases by this year. Additionally, the World Cup will be held for the first time in 6 different countries, shared by Spain, Morocco, Portugal, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay, to mark the centennial of the first World Cup in history, held in 1930. In 2032, the Olympic Games will be held in Brisbane, Australia, marking the 3rd time the oceanic country has hosted the Olympics, after Sydney and Melbourne. That same year, the opening of one of the world's most ambitious engineering projects is expected, the bridge over the Strait of Messina, which will link Sicily with the rest of Italy by road and rail. Furthermore, it will become the world's longest suspension bridge by far, surpassing the second on the list by more than 1,000 meters. In 2033, the sky will offer a rare spectacle, an especially intense Leonids meteor shower, which usually reaches its peak every 33 years. That same year, MasterCard will permanently eliminate the magnetic stripe from its cards, a technology that has been in use for over 70 years. Invented in the 60s, it was the first system that allowed digital information to be stored on a card and opened the door to automated payments, the end of checks, and the expansion of global trade. Today, it has been almost completely replaced by chips, contactless payments, and biometrics, which are more secure and faster. In 2034, the World Cup will be held in Saudi Arabia, a move that seeks to project its international image through sports as part of its national transformation strategy. And that same year, the first transplants of lab-grown organs could also begin, thanks to bioprinting and tissue engineering. These would be very specific cases, but they would mark the beginning of a new era in regenerative medicine. The year 2035 could mark a turning point in the history of energy. In France, the ITAR experiment, the largest nuclear fusion project ever built, is scheduled to turn on its reactor for the first time. Although it won't generate electricity yet, it will achieve something crucial, multiplying the energy it injects into the plasma by 10. A milestone that would finally open the door to an almost infinite, clean source without long-lived radioactive waste. That same year, in the European Union, the United Kingdom, and Canada, new gasoline, diesel, or hybrid cars will no longer be sold. From then on, only zero-emission vehicles will be available for purchase. In 2037, the world's population will reach the incredible figure of 9 billion people. In 2038, some old computer systems will fail because their internal clock will stop counting correctly. Upon reaching a certain point, it'll reset, and they will think we are in the year 1901. Although most modern devices are already prepared, there are delicate exceptions like some orbiting satellites, industrial sensors, old meters, or banking software that continues to operate with legacy code. Many of them can't be easily updated or are too expensive to replace. In 2040, so-called Artificial General Intelligence, or AGI, could be achieved. It would be an intelligence capable of solving new problems, reasoning, planning, and adapting just as a competent person would in many areas. Unlike current artificial intelligence, it would not need to be reprogrammed to learn something new. But this is undoubtedly the most uncertain prediction in the entire video. Just a few years ago, before the ChatGPT boom, most estimates placed it around the year 2060. However, the current pace has led some experts to move it forward even to 2028. Between Spain and Morocco, the first tunnel crossing the Strait of Gibraltar could be built. It is a project that has been on the table for decades, but now it is gaining momentum again. Even in the best-case scenario, it would not be operational before 2040. Its cost is estimated between 15 and 30 billion euros, and it would connect Europe and Africa by land under the sea. And also, by 2040, we could see the first permanent mining facilities on the moon. Tests have already been done to detect ice at the lunar South Pole, and the missions planned for this decade could lead to continuous resource exploitation on the surface. In 2047, the one country, two systems model that has applied to Hong Kong since its reintegration into China in 1997 will officially expire. Although it was intended to last 50 years, Chinese authorities have already indicated that it could be maintained indefinitely. In the case of Macau, the equivalent agreement has an expiration date of the year 2049. And starting in 2048, the Antarctic Treaty could be revised, a 1961 agreement that protects Antarctica as a scientific reserve, guarantees freedom of research, and prohibits all military or commercial activity. After that date, debates could reopen regarding the possible economic use of the frozen continent. In 2050, the completion of China's Great Green Wall is planned, a massive reforestation program started in 1978 to halt desertification in the north of the country. The project involves planting billions of trees over more than 4,500 kilometers, from the northeast of the country to the Gobi Desert. By that same date, the Amazon could be on the verge of collapse. Up to half of its surface area could be degraded by the combination of droughts, extreme heat, and deforestation. Some areas already emit more carbon dioxide than they absorb, and if the trend continues, the damage would be irreversible. Even so, there is still time to prevent it. In 2050, we could also witness the global eradication of malaria, a disease that still causes the death of 600,000 people a year, mostly in Africa. Vaccines are already being deployed along with promising new treatments, but achieving it will depend on funding, political will, and healthcare access in the most affected areas. And what will the world look like in the year 2050? There is some good news. We will be nearly 10 billion people, and 70% will live in cities, a big jump from the current 55%. The UN goal of universal internet access will be reached, as 90% of the world's population is expected to be connected compared to 70% today. There will also be more literate people. If today the rate is around 87%, especially low and rural areas and developing countries, by 2050 it could rise to 95%. Extreme poverty will also decrease. If there are no major crises, the percentage of people living on less than $3 a day could fall from the current 10% to just 2%. As for access to drinking water, 1 in 4 people in the world still lack safe water. But in 2050, thanks to new infrastructure, purification systems, and more accessible technologies, that figure is expected to drop to just 1 in 10. Life expectancy will also increase. From the current 73.6 years, we will move to an average of about 78 years. Infant mortality will also decline. Today, about 27 babies die for every 1,000 births, but if the trend continues, that figure could be cut by more than half. But it won't all be good news. The sea level will have risen between 25 and 30 centimeters. It may seem like little, but it's enough to cause frequent flooding in many coastal areas. Cities like Miami or Mumbai are already building levees and adapting infrastructure, but other places have it worse. In countries like Tuvalu, the Maldives, or the Marshall Islands, whose maximum altitude does not exceed 5 meters, this rise will be an existential threat. And as if that weren't enough, the world is aging. In 2024, 1 in 10 people is over 65 years old. In 2050, it'll be 1 in 6. A profound change that'll test pension systems, healthcare, the labor market, and the way of life as we know it. Who will sustain the system when there are more people collecting than working? Luckily, if artificial intelligence and robotics continue to advance at the current rate, it's quite likely that by 2050, working will no longer be a necessity for everyone. So what if in the future, no one had to work anymore?